the Lighten Up podcast with Lauren Polly, your invitation for living on the lighter side of life. I'm Lauren Polly, and I am delighted you have chosen to join me today for episode 224, Your Day, Your Way. Today, I want to talk about this weird phenomenon that we do where we basically let other people or our environment run the show. This can look a whole bunch of different ways. Either other people's busyness becomes your busyness, other people's stress leaks into your own space, and before you know it, you're acting like it's yours. If someone's grumpy, it kind of overtakes your mood, or sometimes the things that you want to do, it's like the environment doesn't lend itself to that. So your choice in actually creating that thing and moving forward gets stopped in its tracks. This can look a lot of different ways, and I think the biggest possibility we could perhaps unlock and explore together today is really looking at how to hold your own and have your choice regardless of what's going on around you. It doesn't mean that sometimes you have to push ahead if the environment isn't lending itself to what you want to do or the people in your life just are not agreeable or helping out at all. It's not about a fight for it. It's not about taking a stand and having to get all worked up. It's really about making a choice for yourself in your own space about what can I choose. How would I like to be living this day, and what would I like to do right now, and being able to find a way to do that with ease. This episode's really coming from a bunch of different spaces in my own life currently. I had an interesting week last week at the hospital. I think some of you know that I manage a therapy department at one of the local medical centers here in LA. And it was just interesting. It was a very, very busy week. There were a lot of interesting folks I had to deal with. Well, we'll call them interesting, as is what it is when you're in the business world or out and about just living daily life and having to interact with people. I always say in my wellness seminars, what's the biggest stressor out there? It's people, because people choose interesting things. And for some reason, if you're a sensitive person, then the people thing gets a little bit more tricky because you're usually very aware of them. You usually care a great deal about them. And you also kind of are a bit more of that, I like to say, what is that? It's kind of like being overly considerate of them, where you may be one to put their needs above your own. It's kind of a fascinating phenomenon, and I know most of you listening to this show are people. You are healers, you're workers in making people's lives greater or better, whether that's having a business that actually lends itself to that, whether you're in a caregiver role as a parent or a teacher, what have you. It's just a fascinating thing that when you're basically built this way, you have a lot of awareness of people, you're very empathetic, you have a great deal of caring, you become overly considerate, where sometimes it's like, I have to put my choice second because this person isn't choosing the same thing. And I had a lot of that last week. It was a very interesting thing to watch how my day was busy. There was a lot of stuff I was dealing with, a lot of different interesting dynamics. And unfortunately, I noticed myself hours going by where I was kind of swept up in that energy, where my way of actually moving at a bit more of an oozeful pace, where I can move quickly, but at the same time not rush or force or push my way through, was kind of given up because of everyone else's choice. And it was an interesting thing because I looked back at my day and I said, how much of my day was actually spent in the energy that I desire? The energy that I desire to be living in and steeping myself and my body in, and the energy that I'd like my life to be. And it was very minimal. And so it kind of went, this is an interesting thing. What is that? And a lot of people might look at that and say, oh, big deal, you had a bad day, or big deal, you were super busy that day, whatever. But when I look at the microcosm of the daily choices that we all make, into that microcosm of how our life unfolds for us, our future unfolds, and we actually start to be able to steer the path in greater directions, and also harness the energies that really allow us to steep our entirety of living in ones that light us up, ones that make us feel cozy, ones that make us feel alive and joyful and relaxed. It's not enough for me to be able to just have that every now and then. I'm really asking for every day, as much as possible, to be steeped in that energy. And I know that underneath all of that, it boils down to my choice and actually having it and choosing it, and my choice not to get swept away by other people. As I said, I've made a lot of progress with this. This is something that I've worked on a lot. And it's only these rare occasions now where I'm like, okay, that was a really busy day. There were a lot of upset people. There were a lot of fires to put out. I get it. I get that's kind of my role in my job here. Maybe look for yourself where you have a role or a job that is similar, where you are kind of the fix-it or the helper or the one that has to kind of come in and change the energy of the situation. And are you better equipped to do that when you're able to hold your own? Actually have that breath of choice so that you go, you know what? Everyone here is worked up. I could very easily get swept up into that energy and follow it. I could very easily also take the opposite side where I start to fight against it, which just creates more tension. Just makes your head busier, it makes your body really stiff, and a lot of times it doesn't lead anywhere greater. As soon as you stiffen up that way, you become so hard that you become an easy thing to poke against. Believe it or not, you actually start to feed the beast more with that, right? So instead, being able to look at that situation and saying, I'm not going to get swept up. I'm also not going to fight against it, but what choice do I have here? I know I still have to act. It's not like I can get up and leave. You can't leave your job in the middle of the day. You can't, abandon your business in the middle of a hiccup that's going through. Some of you who are solopreneurs, you may actually find yourself in that habit. I really invite you to look at it if that is the case. You want to make sure that you have the wherewithal and the stick-to-itness to actually be present during this. And very similar, we can't leave our children when they're in the middle of a temper tantrum just because the energy is intense. We can't just kind of abandon the things in our lives. So being able to really be in the situation, know what your role is there. Okay, I'm here to change the energy. There are things I have to deal with. I have to act. Okay. But what energy is guiding me forward here? And where have I given up my choice because of other people's choices? Because of their dynamics and because of their energy. I was talking to a lady last week. I was doing a discovery session for my coaching program, and she was so interesting. She says that was the biggest thing she was struggling with right now is I feel like I take on other people's energy. That was how she said it. And I'm like, well, yes, you may take it on where it feels like, you're putting a coat around you that's heavy or uncomfortable or whatever. But more than anything, not just taking it on, you're giving up your choice in the presence of intense energies. In ones that trigger you, in ones that you don't enjoy, ones that you think you have to heal or fix or handle in some way. And when you have that baser point of view, not just, okay, I take on things for other people, but the greater point of view of I need to give myself up. I need to give my choice up in order to be here with them or to do this job or to handle it. That's really dangerous territory. So the invitation today is to start looking right now, where have you given up your choice for other people? Where are the hot spots right now? And the hot spots may change. It may be your relationship. It may be your business. It may be your job. It may be even in your own kind of inner workings with yourself in your own mind where you're getting a bit uncomfortable or getting a little pushy with yourself in whatever you're trying to change or shift. Where are the hot spots right now where you could use a little bit of diffusion? You could use a little bit of de-escalation, a little bit of cool water thrown on, a little air to breathe. And now look at that and expand it just a little bit and start to look at what you've given up in order to have that in the first place. Is this something where your situational awareness was intense in the fact that you were aware of the other people and the situations you find yourself in, but also not honed and clear enough for you to go, that's theirs, not mine. Perhaps that could shift it. Where has it been something where there's a bit of a lack of self awareness, where your own behaviors, your own choices, or your baser viewpoints where you can't actually choose for yourself around certain people or in certain environments? Where has that actually led to this being a hot button, too? And greater than that, tap into the energy, and this may be an exercise for this week. Tap into the energy of what you'd like your life to be. On the grand scale, what are you asking for? Are you asking for the intensity of having to put out fires and run around and blah, of fighting constantly and defending and proving? Or are you asking for something that's a bit more spacious, where you get to relax, where you get to get stuff done and be highly productive, but you get to do it in a way where you get to have space, choice, and ease? Are you also looking for something that's a bit more fun and enlivening and kind of popping with interest? That's one I talk about all the time. And when I look for myself, I'd like to have a life that constantly interests me, where I go, ooh, what's that? And get to lean in and explore something new and different. Whatever that is for you, and if you haven't looked at that, take a peek this week. Start to look at the scenarios, the situations, the people, whatever it is that actually lends that to you, where you go, oh man, you know what? I feel real good right now. And it may be a myriad of different things. You may want that pop of excitement and interest and drive, also paired with that sense of relaxation and space. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's, and it doesn't have to look like one thing versus the other. It's important to start looking at how you would like your overall life to feel like to you, regardless of what it looks like, regardless of what comes across your path or who throws some interestingness your way or what you have to deal with. Regardless of that, what would you like your sense of yourself to be? And what experiences would you like to create that actually lend itself to that? Then get very clear on what isn't a match for that. And that's where you go back to those interesting questions. Okay, you know what? Today I did not spend in the energy that I'd actually like to choose and have in my life, like I had last week. Okay, I wonder what's going on. Okay, I'm giving up my choice to actually choose that. I'm getting swept away by other people. Okay, I have to remember it's their stuff, it's not mine. That just because they're intense and that energy is uncomfortable for me, I don't have to give myself up to it. You don't have to play second fiddle to the people in your life. Perhaps there's a different way to work with it. You don't have to give yourself up and get swept away. You don't have to fight against it. You just need to be present, plant your feet, take a breath, and start to choose into the energy you'd like your life to be. It's so fascinating. We don't look at the small choices that we make day in and day out as actually being big choices. Because there's a accumulation effect like you would not believe. If you spend all of your time at work stressed, are you surprised that when your body gets really tired, or when your mind is spinning and can't shut down, or when your relationships suffer? If you're in a personal dynamic that doesn't actually acknowledge you and support you, are you actually surprised where that bleeds out into every other area that you have in your life? This conversation may seem as something as simple as choose not to be stressed in the moment. Cool. But I'd like you to take the bigger perspective of what you can choose in that moment that not only lets you diffuse the situation, but is actually that ripple into your future, so that you get to actually have a life, a living, and a future that supports what you're asking for on the greater scale. This is a big conversation. There's a lot of nuances into it as well. I invite you to go back, re-listen to this episode as frequently as you need to, and I wonder what else is possible for all of us. Living, breathing, and enjoying our life day in and day out the way we desire it, and not having to give it up for anyone or anything. Have an amazing week, and as always, I will chat with you next Tuesday.